Hello and welcome to this help video on computer based test of JEE Advanced 2018. So, we would actually demonstrate the functionalities and the features of computer based test through the mock test that we have uploaded on the JEE Advanced official website. So, let us start and go step by step into looking at what are the functionalities, and the basic objective of this particular help video is to familiarize the candidate about the test environment of the computer based test of JEE Advanced 2018. Now, when a candidate actually walks into the test center and gets into the seat allotted to that particular candidate, one will see that on the terminal of that particular seat a screen which will resemble exactly what is given on this particular screen here. On the left hand side there will be the system name which will be assigned to that particular candidate. On the right side, right top corner, one will see the candidate name and also the photograph of the candidate which the candidate have actually uploaded at the time of registration. And then below that we will find that there is a login screen with the first row here as the username of the candidate and the second one as the password of the candidate. Now, for every candidate, the computer assigned to that particular candidate will be having the username as the roll number of the candidate already written into that, because as you see that the name of the candidate, the photograph of the candidate is already there, and in the username the roll number, the JEE Advanced roll number of the candidate will already be keyed in. So, the candidate here, in order to start the test, actually need to key in the password. So, please follow the cursor on the screen, so that you will know where actually the password is going to be keyed in. Now, here on the password of each of the candidate will be the respective date of birth of the candidate, and in which format the candidate is supposed to key in the password. It is in the format of DD, that is 2 dates, then MM, that is the 2 fields for the month, and then 4 fields YYYY for the 4-digit year of the date of birth of the candidate. So, for example, if the date of birth of a particular candidate is 18th of April 1999 say, then the candidate using this particular keyboard, on screen keyboard, will key in 1, 8, then for April 04, and then for the year 1999, that is 1, 9, 9 and 9, and then that is the password that the candidate has entered, and then he will actually sign in using that particular password. Now, one should keep in mind that during the examination the keyboard will be non-functional, although the candidate might find that the computer assigned to him is having a keyboard, but the keyboard will not be functional during the entire period of the test. So, the entire test actually the candidate will be operating using the mouse, and that will actually be used and will act as the control in that particular system. So, once the password is keyed in, the candidate can sign in and enter into the instruction section of the question paper. Now, because this particular help video is based on the mock test, there is a disclaimer that is put actually in the mock test, will actually not be appearing in the actual test. This is only for the mock test. Well, this particular disclaimer says that the purpose of this particular mock test is to familiarize the candidate with the computer based test environment of JEE Advanced 2018. The candidate may use this particular mock test and should actually use this particular mock test in order to get acclimatized with the functionalities of the computer based test, so that the candidate does not face any difficulty while actually taking the test. Now, this mock test has used or is based on previous years questions of JEE Advanced. So, no new question as such is coming in the mock test. Of course, new questions will be coming in the actual test, but this, because the illustration is based on the mock test, it is just based on the questions on the previous year's JEE Advanced papers. Now, of course, the mock test, it goes without saying, of course, that the type of questions and the illustrative marking scheme which is highlighted in the mock test is in of course no way indicative of the type of questions and the marking scheme that is going to come in JEE Advanced 2018. It is just for illustration purpose and for the candidates to get acclimatized and familiarized actually with the online test environment, right. See, once you actually have logged in, then the instructions for the test will come, and a candidate must actually read all the instructions very carefully before proceeding for the test. Now, when the candidate logs in, when the candidate actually occupies his or her seat at the examination center, he will be able to log in and read the instructions, and enough time would be given so that the candidate can actually read all the instructions carefully. And see, the instruction says some of the important things about the test structure. It will also tell you about the computer based test environment. See, here in the general instructions, what we are listing here is the total duration of the examination is 180 minutes, etc., etc., and the clock will be set at the server. The clock, it means the clock of the candidate's terminal will be set at the server, and the countdown timer on the top right corner of the screen, that will come once the exam starts actually, not at the time of reading the instructions, and that particular display of the clock of the countdown timer actually will be there for the entire duration of the test, so that the candidate gets to know how much time is left actually for his or her test. Now, the question palette actually displayed, that is to be displayed once you enter into the questions on the right hand side of the screen, somewhere around this particular position, which will actually show the status of each of the questions using the following symbols. The candidates must actually read these instructions and keep in mind these instructions, these screen palettes also. See, the first one is a square symbol which is on white color, which will actually signify the questions which are not visited by the candidate. The second one is on a red colored button here, which are the questions which have been visited, but not answered. The third one is a green colored button here, or an indicator, which would indicate that the question has been answered by the candidate. The fourth one is a purple colored circle, which actually talks about questions which have been marked for review. So, marked for review is essentially that the candidate has seen that particular question and thinks that possibly he can answer that question with some time, with some effort of course, so that he just marks that particular question, so that he can actually, looking at the palette, can come back at any point of time to that particular question which he thought he can actually answer, but needs some time in order to solve that particular question. And the last indicator actually, last legend I should say, is a purple colored indicator once again, with a green symbol here inside that particular purple colored symbol. Now, what are these? These are actually questions which the candidate has answered in whatever way the answer was supposed to be entered. He has answered that particular question, but he thinks that possibly given some more time, he would like to look back at that particular question once again and can actually change, or if he wants, he can change that particular answer of that particular question. Well, even if a particular question is answered and not left for review, that question also can later on be changed. So, these points I will make clear once we move into actually the question paper section. Now, these general instructions will also tell you how to actually navigate between sections of question paper, how to navigate between questions within a particular section, and how to move to the top of the question palette, how to move to the bottom of the question area actually, and all these things. And it will also tell you how to answer different type of questions that are there in the question paper. For illustration, we have just put one thing here, that is how to answer, or what is the procedure actually for answering a multiple choice type of question. It would make more sense when I actually go into the question paper section, so that I can tell you how you can actually answer a particular type of question inside inside the question paper, right. So, these are some general instructions which are there. Now, a couple of things that I would like to highlight here in this particular general instruction section once you have logged in is that now the language of the instructions can be changed by changing the view in language here. So, as you see that there is a drop down here, with the mouse here you click on that and you see that there are two possibilities in which you can view the instructions. So, suppose I want to change the language of these instructions to Hindi, I click on Hindi and you see that all the instructions now gets changed actually to Hindi. If I want to change it back to English, I once again click here on this particular drop down menu here and I choose my language as English. Now, it is of course important for each and every candidate to go through the instructions extremely carefully during the exam or before the start of the exam, and also one can view the instructions during the exam as well. When I move into the question paper section, you will see that. Now, after the instructions, you will find that there is a line here which says that choose your default language. So, there are two options, as in the offline test you have two options, either you choose your default language as English or your default language as Hindi. So, that will actually set the default language to the language of your choice, but even if you have chosen English here as your default language, at any point of time you can actually switch to Hindi and see what is the Hindi version of that particular question paper. Now, see in red actually it is written here that please note that all questions will appear in your default language, and however, the language can be changed for a particular question later on any time during the test. Now, once you have chosen your default language, you need to check in here, if you do not actually on this check box here, that you have read and understood all the instructions, all computer hardware allotted to you are in proper working condition. This is what is a declaration from the candidate, and I declare that I am not in possession of or not wearing or not carrying any prohibited gadgets like mobile phone, Bluetooth devices, etc., and any prohibited material with me into the examination hall, and you should be knowing that carrying any such item would lead to disqualification of the candidate from this particular examination. And I agree that in case of not adhering to the instruction, I shall be liable to be debarred from this test and to disciplinary action in that particular regard. Okay. Now, if you do not check this particular box here, you will not be able to proceed here. You see that it is written here, I am ready to begin, but it is in a sign that will not allow you to proceed. Once you actually check in, you will be able to make this particular button activated and you would be able to begin. Now, at what time can you actually begin the test? You know that the test is going to be in two papers. One starts at 9 a.m. in the morning and the second paper starts at 2 p.m. and only at 9 o'clock you will be able to begin or to view the questions, and before that particular time you will only be able to see the instructions that are there after you have logged in. So, only at 9 a.m. for the paper 1 and at 2 p.m. for paper 2 you will be able to click this particular point here. All the candidates will be able to start the question paper or the test actually at simultaneously at that particular point of time when the exam starts. Now, when the time of the exam starts, the candidate will be able to start here by saying that I am ready to begin, and then the exam starts. So, let us start the exam in the way that it would appear in the computer based test of JEE Advanced 2018. Now, once you begin the test at the stroke of 9 a.m. in the morning and 2 p.m. in the afternoon, you will see the first question in the first section of the question paper. Now, one thing to start with, you see that there is a counter here. I talked about a clock or a timer which you will be having on screen. Now, this is what it is. It says that time left at the moment, it says 179 minutes 28 seconds. So, the exam is of 180 minutes, that is 3 hours. So, this timer actually moves in the reverse direction, so that it will go on decreasing as the time passes. So, it is now at 179 minutes and 13 seconds as in here. Now, once you have entered the test, you will be able to see how many sections are there in each of the parts, that is physics, chemistry and mathematics, in the actual test. So, for illustration, as we said that we are looking at a past question paper of JEE Advanced, and in that particular past question paper there were 3 sections in each of the parts, physics, chemistry and mathematics. Now, once the candidate logs in and starts the exam, all the sections are visible as in here. You see that it is physics section 1, physics section 2, physics section 3, chemistry section 1, chemistry section 2, chemistry section 3, math section 1, math section 2 and math section 3. So, all the section headings are visible here, and the presently active section will be highlighted as in this one, because the first section of the paper is physics section 1. You see that this is a blue highlighted color here, and the first question in that particular section is going to be displayed on the screen of the candidate. Now, at the start or in each of the questions in the JEE Advanced 2018, you will have this type of thing here. What it is? It actually says that you are presently in section 1 of physics. The maximum marks in that particular section is 32. This is an illustration once again. In section 1 of physics, 32 marks, and the sectional instruction will be displayed in each and every question that you will be having within each section. So, the sectional instruction of this section here is that there are 8 questions in this particular section. The answer to each question is a single digit integer ranging from 0 to 9, both inclusive. For each question, type the correct integer in the space provided below the question, that is the body of the stem of the question, using the provided number keys. Number keys are here, as you see here. This is the place where you will actually put in your answer. Now, the marking scheme of all the questions within a particular section, in particular for this particular question which is displayed on the screen, will also be visible to you. As an illustration, the marking scheme of this particular question is 4 for a correct answer and 0 for all other cases. That is, you are going to be having 0 if you have provided some incorrect answer, or 0 if the question is unanswered. Okay. Now, once you have read the sectional instruction corresponding to a particular section, you are in line actually to look at the question now. So, now this is the stem of the question. A large spherical mass m is fixed at one position and 2 identical point masses m are kept on a line, and so on. So, that is the stem of the question, and at the end of the stem of the question is posed in the way that it is posed here, that the value of k is. So, that value of k according to the type of question which is written in here is a single digit integer. Now, in some other question it might be a numerical value, but it can be a single digit integer, whatever is the sectional instruction you need to follow. Then you work out what is going to be the solution corresponding to this particular question here, and suppose after you have worked out, you arrive at an answer which is 9, and let us see how to actually put in or record this particular answer of yours. Now, on the left hand side here, where my mouse is active here, you see that this is actually the virtual numeric keyboard that you have in here, and as I said at the beginning that the actual computer keyboard will be disabled during the test. So, you will not be able to key in your answer using the keyboard, but using this particular virtual keyboard. Now, see how easy is entering the answer using this virtual keyboard here. Now, as I said, suppose the answer that you have worked out for this question is 9. So, you bring your cursor to this 9 digit here and just click on this one, and you see that 9 is put in here. Now, suppose by mistake you know that your answer is 9, but you clicked it twice and 99 comes in. So, you obviously want to erase one of these 9s. Now, there are 2 ways in which you can actually do that. One is that you know there is a backspace button here. So, take your mouse to the backspace button and click on it once. So, that 9 is cleared and you are back to this particular 9. Now, suppose that you thought that by mistake, although my answer is 5, by mistake I clicked on this particular 9. So, you can either erase it like using the backspace, or you can even come to this clear all button here. It will clear all the integers that have been keyed in for this. Now, in case you think that, well, I am sure that the answer is 3 say. So, I have keyed in 3 here. Now, what to do with this one? So, once you answer a particular question, you need to save that particular answer, because if I do not save the answer, it will not get recorded, even if I have entered this particular answer of mine here as 3. So, what are the options in order to save that particular answer that you have keyed in? There are 2 options. One is that you just press on save and next, so that you see that the answer of that particular question is 3 and you have saved that particular answer. Now, it may so happen, depending on the question, that you worked out the answer to be 3, or maybe you guessed it to be 3, and you think that, well, at the moment let me put it as 3, let me put my answer as 3, but I would like to actually come back and review that particular question at a later point of time during the exam. In that case, what I will do is I will put it as a review question. So, what I will do? I will say that it is marked for review and next. Now, the color actually is going to change for this particular question number 1. Now, in the first instance, I had actually answered it and put it as save and next. In the second instance, I have entered my answer, but with a sort of marking on that question that I would like to actually review it some later time. So, you see that the legend actually changes to the color which is purple here with a green dot. It indicates something. Suppose it was there in the instructions, but suppose you have forgotten what that particular legend actually means. For your help, this particular explanation of the legend or the colors and the shapes of that the legends which are going to appear here are given here. Now, you see the exactly the same thing is appearing here. This green colored talks about questions which are answered. This red legend here talks about questions which are not answered. This white one here, or the gray one, actually it is a gray one, it says that the question is not visited yet. The purple without any green mark here will say that it has just been marked for reviewed, it has not been answered. And the last one here, the fifth one, it says that that particular question has been answered and simultaneously it has been marked for review. Now, note that there is a difference between this purple here, which is marked for review, and this purple with a green sign here, green circle inside it, which is answered and marked for review. So, between this marking here, which is just left as marked for review, and answered and marked for review, if a question is answered, it will of course be evaluated unless you do not change the answer or you just erase that particular answer. So, if a question has been answered and marked for review and not changed later on, whatever is your answer will be considered for evaluation, right. So, in question number 1 in our illustration, let us go back to that question and see what this particular symbol actually means. So, we had put in this particular answer as 3 and simultaneously had put it for review at a later point of time. So, its legend actually changes to this. So, here you see that it's you are inside physics section 1, there were 8 questions in that particular section anyway. So, for question number 1 you have answered and marked for review. Let us move on to the second question here. So, this is the second question, it is still within section 1 of physics, and once again the sectional instruction is displayed at the top here, and then the stem of the question is here. Now, after you look at the question, you feel that, well, I do not know possibly how to solve this particular question. So, I see the question and I just move on to the next question. How do I do that? Without answering that particular question, I just click on the next question here. So, the legend here, it says that it is unanswered, it is red colored legend here. So, question number 2 is not answered. I have seen that particular question, but I thought that at that particular point of time, I thought that I am unable to answer that particular question. So, without wasting time, I move on to the next question. Well, here you see that there are 5 questions here, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. these questions have not yet been visited. That is what the legend says here. This gray color here says that the questions have not yet been visited. So, that is what is the color here. Now, we are in question number 3 here. Now, once again the sectional instruction is displayed here, the marking scheme is displayed here, the stem of the question for question number 3 is presently here. Now, I see that, or I feel that after I have worked out this particular question, that the answer of this particular question is 1 according to my calculations. So, if I see that the answer is 1, I click on 1 and I am 100% dead sure about that, I do not need to look back at that particular question, I just say that it is save and next. Now, you see the color of the question number 3 is green. It means that it has been answered without any marking on it, that I want to review it at a later point of time, right. Now, there can be another type, say I am presently in question number 4. You see that it is question number 4 here, I am still within physics section 1, and you see that it is at the moment I have just now visited it. So, it is highlighted here, and for this particular question I think that this question possibly needs some more time, but it is doable. So, in that situation what I will do is I will say that, well, let me not try to solve this particular question right away, but from among all these questions I would like to actually come back to this particular question and solve it. So, how do I go about? I just say that without answering anything or without entering anything as in here, I would just say I would mark it for review and move to next. Now, you see that there is a type of legend which is different from this one. Both of these are purple colored. The first one is answered and marked for review, this will be considered for evaluation. On the other hand, this question number 4, I saw the question, and if I feel that I would come back to the question later on and answer it. So, it gives me actually a sort of, just by looking at these legends, I know what is the status of each and every question. So, see this physics section 1, I have visited question number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and I have not visited yet question number 6, 7 and 8. For question number 2, I visited and I did not answer it. Question number 3, I visited and I was pretty sure about the answer. I answered it and did not mark it for review. Question number 1, I answered and I left it for review, so that I can see the legend and come back at a later point of time. And question number 4, I saw the question, I just marked it for review, so that at a later point of time, by looking at the legend, I can actually come back to that particular question here, right. And these have not yet been seen by me, right. So, that is basically how this particular palette actually works. Now, a few things about navigating between the questions here. Well, I think I should also tell you something about changing the answers of questions. Say suppose I look at question number 3, I come back to, just by clicking on that particular question number, I come back to the question again, my previously entered answer is 1. Now, after some rethinking, I feel that, well, I had actually put in a wrong answer for that particular question. In a pen and pencil based or ORS based question or exam, there is no way that you can actually change this particular answer that you have already put in, but on a computer based test, at any point of the test you can actually change any answer that you have put in for a particular question. Like for this particular question, at some point of time I had put in answer as 1, now I feel that the answer should be 0. So, what do? I come here into this particular palette. So, there are ways in which I can actually change my answer. One option is that you see that there is a button here which says clear response. I will just click on that, it clears the response of that particular question, and as I told you that possibly now I think that the correct answer is 0. So, I enter my new answer as in here, right. You can do it in other ways, like suppose your old answer was 1, you come here and place your cursor after 1 and press or rather click on the backspace using your mouse here. So, that clears that particular answer. So, a previously answered question, the response of a previously answered question can be cleared either for this type of question, of course, by using the backspace button or the clear all button or the clear response button as in here, and the new option can be keyed in this particular manner, and then I say that now it is my new answer, I need to save and move on to the next question. So, for each and every answer that you actually put in or rather key in or want to record, you need to either put it as save and next here or mark for review and next, that will also save the answer, right. Now, let me try to tell you about the functionalities in this particular screen that you are going to see during the computer based test of the JEE Advanced 2018. Now, to start with, I had told you that these are the sections of the question paper that would be displayed, and the section in which your present question is, this is physics section 1 question number 4, that particular section will be highlighted in here. Suppose I now want to move on to math section 1. So, I click on that particular section and the first question in mathematics section 1 will be displayed on your screen in here. Now, because I am in math section 1, the question number 1 of mathematics section 1, you see that math section 1 now is highlighted here. Now, on this particular question paper palette, you will see that there are so many other things. What are the functionalities of those? You see that in each of these sections there is a circle within which there is a symbol I which is present in here. You just move in your mouse over that particular I is basically for information within that particular section. It tells you the number of questions that you have answered within a particular section, number of questions which are not answered within that particular question, that particular section, number of questions which are not visited, number of questions which are marked for review, number of questions which have been answered and marked for review. Let us just for a moment go back to physics section 1 here. Now, what do you see here? You have 3 questions which are not visited, 2 questions which have been visited, but not answered, 1 question has been answered, not marked for review, 1 question has been answered, marked for review, and 1 question is not answered, but marked for review. Now, if you take your mouse over that I of that section, you will exactly see that information which is displayed on this particular question paper palette. 1 answered, 2 questions are not answered, 3 have not yet been visited, 1 question has just been marked for review without answering, and there is 1 question which has been answered and marked for review. Well, that is going to happen for each of these sections. Remember, we have not yet visited physics section 2. So, it will tell you that 8 questions are not visited in that particular section, and in all other legends you find that the numbers are zeros in those legends there. Well, that is section by section information for you. Within that particular section, whatever has happened or whatever you have done so far will be visible to you at any point of time. Well, there is a key here, or rather a button here, which talks about this as the full question paper section wise, and the full question paper information will be available to you, or will be visible to you rather, if you bring your mouse to the I information corresponding to that particular section. Now, this is the full question paper. So, when you bring your mouse over that I, it says that 54 questions have not been visited yet, 1 question has been answered, that was in physics section 1, 3 has not been answered, but they have been visited, 1 has been kept for review, and 1 has been answered and marked for review. So, section wise information or the type of questions that you have answered, marked for review, visited, not visited, section wise information as in this one, as you see that the section wise informations are visible to you as you bring your mouse to the corresponding I or the information corresponding to that particular section, or on a aggregate level on the entire question paper, this information will be visible to you if you bring your mouse to I of the question paper section wise. So, the information about how many questions you have answered or not answered or marked for review, not visited on section level as in this one, or at the aggregate level on the full question paper level will be visible to you if you bring your mouse to the corresponding I or the information for that particular section, or on a full aggregate question paper level as in this one, right. Now, you see on this particular question paper palette, there are 2 buttons on the right side. Well, the rightmost one talks about instructions. Well, after you had logged in, you had seen instructions of how to operate this particular test. Now, that would be visible any time during the test if you click on this instruction button here. Now, you see this entire instruction, what you had seen after you had logged in, including the meaning of these legends, which are also visible inside your question paper palette, will be visible. So, the entire instruction would be visible if you click on that. Now, once again the language of these instructions can be changed by clicking this particular drop down menu. You can change it to Hindi at any point of time to see the instructions in Hindi. Now, to close this particular window of instructions and go back to the question paper, you have to just close that particular button here. Well, at any point of time during the test, you can do the following in order to view the full question paper by clicking the question paper link here on the top right corner, where my mouse is active at the moment. So, if I click on this question paper, you will see that section by section questions corresponding to all the 3 parts of the question, the physics, the chemistry and the mathematics, would be visible to you. So, in case you wish to actually scroll through actually all the questions of the question paper, not by looking at it one after the other, but just by scrolling, you can also do it by clicking this particular question paper button from here. Now, just below the two, the instructions and the question paper, you will find your name here, you will find your photograph here for the entire duration of the test, and also a link which will say profile. Profile is what your profile is, your details as in your roll number, your name, the question paper language that you have chosen actually at the start of the examination as your default language, and your photograph as in here. Now, from this particular profile palette as well, you can change the default language of the question paper either to your other language, that is from Hindi to English or from English to Hindi. Let us change it back to English and continue this particular video here, right. So, that is what explains this particular profile section, and as I said, this particular palette will guide you to through the entire duration of the test as to what these legends actually mean, and this is very helpful for you. So, that if you have something marked for review or answered and marked for review, you can always get back to that particular question. This will also tell you how many questions you have answered, whether you are lagging behind your time schedule and other things. And as you see, this is the time counter which is actually running. So, at the moment it is at 1:55:39, remember it started at 1:80. So, that is 3 hours time, and to assure you, we would like to tell you that in case the computer terminal allotted to you stops or malfunctions for some reason whatsoever at any point of time during the test, at the instance that your computer freezes or becomes problematic, at that point, at that instance itself, this counter will stop at that point. So, if the computer starts malfunctioning at a particular point, this counter will stop at that point. We will within a few minutes, if not seconds, you will be relocated to another computer and you will be logging in once again to that, and then your counter will start once again. The point of telling you this is that in any case you will not be actually losing any of your precious time, any minutes of your precious time, and the entire duration of 180 minutes would be allotted to you, no matter whether you had any disruption during the test or not. So, once you are allotted or rather relocated to another workable computer inside the same room in a examination center, your clock timer will then start once again, right. So, and you will be given the full 180 minutes of time for the test. Now, let us go to one different section of this particular mock test here. Let us move on to math section 2 here. Now, the sectional instruction for that section 2 of mathematics says that this section contains 8 questions. Each question has 4 options A, B, C and D, one or more than one of these 4 options is or are correct. So, in this particular section, either one option can be correct or it can have multiple correct options, but at least one option in that particular section questions is correct. So, you will have to accordingly choose the correct alphabet corresponding to the correct option or options provided below each of the questions here. The marking scheme, once again this is from the past JEE Advanced paper marking schemes, is given in here. Your marking scheme may differ at the time of exam. Now, this is once again the stem of the question here. Let S be the set of all non-zero real numbers alpha such that the quadratic equation this has two distinct roots x 1 and x 2 and so on. And the correct option or options for this particular question are given in terms of these four options A, B, C and D. And what is the question? The question is, which of the following intervals is or are a subset or subsets of S? That is precisely is the question. So, this is a type of question wherein four options are given as you see in here, and one or more than one of these four options may be correct. So, you will have to choose the correct options from among the given options. Now, just below the question stem, along with the options provided in here, you see that there are these four radio buttons here A, B, C and D. They correspond to the options given in the question. So, suppose after you have worked out the solution of the question in the rough sheet provided to you, you feel that the options A and C are the correct option. So, what do you need to do? You need to take your mouse to the radio button which is beside option A and click on it, and you see that there is a check mark here or a tick mark here beside that particular option which has come. And as I said, suppose you have worked out that option A and option C are the two correct options for this particular question. So, not only will I click on A, I will also click on C for this particular one, and if I am sure that that is my correct answer, I click on save and next in order to save the answer and move on to the second question. So, I move on to the second question of mathematics section 2. Now, once again this is within, since it is in the same section here, you see that it is the same type of question which has one or more than one of the four given options to be correct. So, this is the stem of the question here on trigonometry, and you have got four options here. Now, suppose after you have worked out, you see that according to you the only correct option for this particular question is option number B, that is sine of beta is less than 0, strictly less than 0. So, if according to you the correct answer is B, you bring your mouse over this particular radio button of the B option and just click on that particular one to record your answer. Now, in contrast say to the previous question where you are pretty sure and you had just saved and next moved on to the next question, you think that let's answer this question, but keep it for review. So, as I can come back by looking at that particular legend. So, I put in this B here or key in this B here and put it for mark and review and next. So, you see that the color here or the legend here says that it is answered and marked for review, and then you come to the third question of that particular section. Like this you just go through all the questions. Now, suppose just by looking at a particular question you feel that well this is out of my reach. So, I move on to the fourth question, fifth question, sixth question, seventh question, and I finally see a question that I can surely answer. Well, if that is the question that I feel that this is very easy and the answer to that particular question, suppose after your calculation is A and D, you click on A and you click on D. Well, it is a type of section wherein one or more than one option is correct. So, I have two options as my correct options and I put it as save and next, right. Now, once you do that, once you reach the last question of a particular section, see what happened last time. I was at the last question because this section had 8 questions here. So, I was at question number 8 of that particular section and I answered it and moved on to next. So, when I did that, I move on to the first question of the next section, that is section 3 of maths that I moved in. So, I am presently at question number 1 of this mathematics section 3. Now, mathematics section 3 for this illustration here contains paragraph type questions, and what it says here is that this section has 2 paragraphs and based on each paragraph there will be 2 questions on that. And how are the questions posed? It also tells you about that. Each question has 4 options A, B, C and D. One or more than one of these 4 options is correct, right. So, that is the way that it goes, and suppose you think that this in this particular. So, it says about the paragraph 1 within this particular box, and then you have the question stem here and you have the options here, and you feel, suppose after your calculation, that A is the correct option, you click on A and then you put it as save and next, or if you want to mark it for review, you just put it as mark for review and next. You move on to the next question, as in here in this one, suppose you feel that I will not answer this question at the moment, I will just put it for mark and review and move on to next. I do that. So, I have different legend now here, follow my cursor here, as you see that both of them are purple colored, but there is a huge difference between the two. One has been answered and put for review, the other one is not answered and just put for review. Okay. So, that is how it actually works. Now, inside this particular question paper palette, now it is also important to realize also that during the allotted 1 hour 80 minutes of your test period, you can move to any section as you wish to at any point of the test. So, it does not matter what time I have left, I can move on to any section here irrespective of how many I have answered in the previous section or not. I can move on to any section and navigate through the questions within that particular section, and I can see, as I said, all the information regarding each of the sections, how many I have answered, not answered or not visited at all, marked for review or answered for review. See, the thing I would like to actually here highlight is that suppose you have entered an answer for a particular question, particular type of question, how you can actually change the response. Now, this is a major thing that is that you would have as an advantage over pen and pencil based or ORS based exam, wherein if you have put in a particular option on the ORS, you cannot change it at any point of time during the test. But on the computer based test platform, suppose you have answered a question and later on you feel that you answered it wrongly and you wish to change the response of that particular question, it is extremely easy to do that. Let me try to actually illustrate that using an example. Now, suppose I am looking at mathematics section 2 here. Now, mathematics section 2 here says that this is a type of question wherein one or more than one of the 4 given options is or are correct. So, suppose I look at question number 1 here. I had answered it previously and I thought at that point of time that the correct answer is A and C. And later on second thought, after recalculation possibly, I realized that the correct choices are not A and C, and the correct answers or answer choices are B and C. How do I do that? I come back to this particular question by clicking on the corresponding question number in that particular section, and I see my previously recorded responses are A and C, and I want to change it to B and C. I come to the question here, I just click on clear response. My previous responses are cleared. Now, my new calculations show me that the actual correct answer possibly is B and C, and now I have changed my answer so easily, and I record that by saying save and next. Now, this changing of your recorded responses can be done any point during the allotted 180 minutes. It can be done for any type of questions. It can be a question that is answered without putting it as a review stamp, or a question which has been answered and put as a review stamp also. The previous one, I chose an example of a question which I answered and I changed that particular answer. In a similar manner, suppose I wish to change answer of a different type of question, say a type of question which has single digit as the corresponding answer. So, I come to this particular type of question and I see that this question number 3 of physics section 1, which had single digit integer as the correct option, I can once again change that option as well. So, I clear the response of that and I put in my new answer, possibly that is 9, and I say that that is my final answer, or you can even put it for mark and review. So, that is the way that you can very easily actually during the entire duration of the test change answer of any type of question that may actually come in the actual exam, whether it is a single integer type answer or single correct option type of question, or one or more correct type of answer, or any other type of question. The answer to the questions can be changed by navigating to that particular question and then clearing the response using this particular button in here and keying in or clicking in the new response that you feel at that particular point of time to be the correct answer. Now, see, there is another extremely important thing for this language of the question paper here. Now, see, you can at any point of time of the test, you can actually change the language of the question paper display. Now, at the moment, because I had chosen my default language as English, all the questions are displayed in English. Now, suppose I want to look at a particular question in Hindi language as well for some purpose. So, I come in here and on the drop down list I change my language to Hindi in here. So, the same question with the same instructions here will be visible now in Hindi language. So, it talks about I am in physics section 1. So, Bhautiki Anubhag 1, physics section 1, Adhiktam Ank and all the things including the instructions, including the question paper stem and all will now be displayed in Hindi. If I want to go back to toggle back to actually English, I just once again click on that and choose my language as English and I am back to English here, right. So, for any at any point of time one can actually switch between these languages Hindi and English. Now, see, there are two more functionalities that I would like you to note actually. You see that there is one down arrow button in here. If you click on that, you just scroll down to the bottom of the question paper panel in here. If you click on this up arrow, scroll up arrow here, you will move up to the question top of the question paper here. This would be more meaningful actually for questions which are lengthy in the stem of the statement, like for this one. It is a question on circuits, it is in physics section 1. Now, you see that you are able to only see say part of the question in this particular window in here. There are two ways in which you can move down, either you hold this particular scroll bar here and move down slowly, seeing the remaining part of the question along with the virtual numeric keyboard, or what you can do is to just click on this particular scroll down arrow, so that you move on to the bottom of this particular question. If you want to move up, click on this particular scroll up button in here, so that you are here, right. And to scroll slowly, you hold this with your mouse and just come down and see what is the question in this, and you can also see the instructions, you can also see the question paper stem along with the figure if it is present in that particular question in this particular manner. Now, I would also like you to make a note of this particular right arrow which is provided in the screen in here, where my mouse is presently circling. See, if you click on this one, then the right hand side question paper panel actually will collapse and your entire screen will be full with the question statement. If I now click on this one, you see what happens. You now have only the question paper or the stem of the question along with the figure or equations, if any, filling your entire computer screen. If you want to go back to the previous view of having the legends, which is of course helpful and which will actually help you in seeing what is your status as far as answering all the questions are concerned, you can always click on this one. So, that is the way that you can actually maximize the view of the question paper area, and or you can get into this particular mode wherein you will be able to see all the legends, the help legends along with the legends of the questions, right. Now, that is the way that you would actually do in the actual JEE Advanced computer based test. And in order to familiarize you, we are looking at this particular mock test actually, so that you get into this particular thing, get yourself familiarized with it, look at all the functionalities and how these functionalities can actually be used for the best benefit of the candidates, right. Now, once as I told you that your allotted time is 180 minutes, that is 3 hours. Now, at the end of this particular timer, or rather at the point of time when you have completed your 3 hours test, this timer will naturally read 0, and at that particular point of time the test will end, and all your responses that you have keyed in till that particular point of time, including the ones which you have answered and marked for review, will be submitted for evaluation. For all the questions that either you have answered or you have answered and marked for review, all will be considered for evaluation. For the questions which you have not visited or not answered and which you have left only for review, will of course not be considered for evaluation. Now, at the end of 180 minutes, all your responses will automatically be submitted for evaluation. You can also at the end of 180 minute will be able to submit by clicking on this bottom right corner button which says submit. Now, if you click on that, you will be given an exam summary here. Now, what it says is actually physics section 1 out of 8 questions, how many you have answered, how many you have seen, but not answered, how many you have marked for review, how many you have answered and marked for review. And as I said that all the entries in this particular column here which are answered and all the entries which are here on this column which are answered and marked for review will be considered for evaluation, and all the entries or all the questions associated with not answered column here, marked for review and not visited will of course not be evaluated for that particular test. Okay. And at the end of it you are prompted to tell you that are you sure you wish to submit this group of questions for marking, you say yes, and that is it. You will come to the end of this particular question or answering this particular paper of JEE Advanced 2018. So, we advise you or we tell you to actually go through the mock test, practice yourself and get prepared for the JEE Advanced 2018 with best wishes.